Good morning. My name is Tyrus Chislom. I'm the transportation coordinator here at Orange Grove Center, and this section of orientation deals with transportation. And what I'm about to discuss now is just our driver's policy. It's very simple to understand. I'll walk you through the steps and the issues that are important for you to understand. First thing I would like to share is that Orange Grove is tremendously committed to really impressing all of our employees with the necessity of being safe and professional behind the wheel. We do a great deal of driving, more than 2 million miles per year. We transport hundreds of individuals, a variety of different types of trips. And because of the always possible presence of tragedies, we want to make sure that you understand how important it is that you take this very seriously. Three things I want to mention. First of all, that we want you to comply with all the applicable rules and laws of the road. We want you to conscientiously utilize defensive driving strategies and techniques, and we also want you to follow all of the terms and conditions of this particular policy. The first thing we want to impress upon you is the fact that we want you to have a valid driver's license with an SF endorsement at least. Failure to have a driver's license, valid license, will result in immediate suspension of the use of OGC owned, leased, and rented vehicles. Driving with expired, suspended, and revoked licenses will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Number two, we expect that all of our employees will work with us to attain and maintain current motor vehicle reports. This is your driving history. We normally track the last 3 years of your driving history. Any combination in excess of 2 moving violations and are chargeable accidents in a 3-year period will result in the denial of OGC driving privileges. The MVRs are normally checked every 2 years for most F endorsement drivers. CDL drivers, route drivers, their motor vehicle records are checked at least every year. Number three, we don't want you to permit any hitchhikers, strangers, or unauthorized persons as passengers in any of our vehicles, be they owned, leased, or rented, or any personal vehicle that is being used to transport our individuals, wherein the employee is compensated by Orange Grove for the use of that vehicle. Number four, we don't want you to permit any individuals other than those approved by OGC to operate our vehicles. Number five, we want you to be aware of the fact that any fines, penalties, or criminal actions that are related to driving for us will be the personal responsibility of the employee. This includes any tickets that result from traffic cameras. Number six, it is very important that you report all traffic and vehicular accidents immediately to your supervisor and the transportation department. A police report is required for any accident. Of course, Orange Grove Center has a very stringent definition of accidents. Any damage, any accident that involve injuries, or heaven forbid, any accidents involving death. And the level of damage can be very minor. So if you're not sure, we encourage you, if you are involved in an accident, to call transportation immediately so we can walk you through the process post-accident protocol. Number seven, this is not as important or as pressing as it used to be, but there may be situations where we do require you to turn in certain documentations related to gas costs, ridership, or other transportation related situations. Number eight, we expect that at the beginning of each day, before the first trip of each day, a pre-trip inspection shall be performed to make sure that the vehicle that's being used or operated is safe to drive and also is legal to drive. Number 9, we expect our drivers to complete defensive driving training at least once every 2 years. Um, any remedial training or remedial defensive driving training will be determined as is appropriate. And again, CDL drivers, route drivers in the transportation department are expected to complete defensive driving training at least once a year. Number 10, observe and comply with all no smoking regulations while you are in an Orange Grove Center vehicle at any time, whether you're transporting individuals or not, and also in your own personal vehicle if you're transporting our individuals and being compensated for the use of your vehicle. Number 11, we expect that our drivers will make sure that they and all passengers use seat belts, shoulder straps, head restraints, any other personal safety restraint devices provided in the vehicle, whether you're driving or riding as a passenger. All passengers in the vehicle should use the above mentioned safety devices as provided. This requirement is applicable for all Orange Grove Center vehicles leased, rented, or owned, and any privately owned vehicles that are used to transport OGC individuals. Failure to wear safety restraints may be cause for disciplinary action. Number 12, we expect our vehicles not to use or carry in our vehicles any alcohol, drugs, or other controlled substances in violation of any laws. No driver shall operate an Orange Grove Center vehicle or perform any safety-sensitive functions, for instance, operating wheelchair lifts within 8 hours after ingesting alcohol. And if they're still under the influence of alcohol, they are asked not to drive or to operate such equipment until the influence of the alcohol has dissipated. Persons using prescription drugs, which may impair their ability to drive safely, should provide a doctor's statement to affirm this condition. We always encourage our drivers to be wary even of over-the-counter drugs, which in some cases can impair an individual's ability to operate a vehicle safely. Number 13, we do not expect and we do not want our drivers to carry or store explosives, firearms, or any other weapons in Orange Grove Center vehicles. Number 14, we expect that our drivers shall submit to a post-accident drug alcohol test per federal regulations and our OGC policy. CDL drivers must submit to alcohol and drug testing within 2 hours of an accident. Non-CDL drivers must submit to drug testing immediately, but not to exceed 2 hours after the accident. Any drivers who cannot be tested within the first 2 hours of an accident must provide reasons for failing to do so. Reasons should be documented and placed in the employee's driver's file. Number 15, we discourage the use forbid the use of any cell phones or other electronic devices while operating an OGC vehicle or transporting our persons that we support in private vehicles. Safety must come before all other concerns. Orange Grove Center does allow for urgent calls to be made, but we ask that the individuals driving should pull over to a safe parking area, put the vehicle in park, apply the parking brakes, place in operation their four-way flashers, then turn on their phones, make their call to their supervisors, and after the call is complete, turn the phone off, put it out of sight, and complete their trip. First offense for the use of electronic devices while operating an Orange Grove Center vehicle or a personal vehicle while being compensated by Orange Grove for the use of that vehicle is a 3-day suspension without pay. The second offense is termination. Item number 16, conduct post-trip inspections per OGC policies. The purpose of these checks is to ensure that no individual is left in our vehicles unattended after that vehicle is parked and presumed to be empty. Uh, Vehicles also, once they are parked and the driver is leaving that vehicle, they should also be locked to prevent anyone from entering that vehicle uh, unbeknownst to the driver. Number 17, employees who are charged with traffic violations while driving will be solely responsible for all liabilities that result from such action. Failure to abide by these rules and this protocol may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Also would like you to understand that we do have an accident review committee that does review all accidents involving Orange Grove Center vehicles and vehicles, personal vehicles being used to transport persons that OGC supports. Want to share with you, for your information, our definition of a accident. The committee is charged with the responsibility of determining preventability or non-preventability of an accident. A preventable accident is one wherein the driver failed to do everything that could reasonably be done to avoid the accident. If you need more information concerning that classification and how that is done, you can contact transportation for that information. But as I said earlier, our definition of the accidents are pretty stringent, more so than most organizations, simply because our business is people. So we want to make sure that we emphasize that we take safety seriously. So a driver shall be considered to be involved in an accident if any motor vehicle that they are driving, or was the last person to drive, or the vehicle for which the individual is in charge of, shall come in contact with any person, animal, or other vehicle, or other inanimate object in a manner which results in death, injury, or property damage. Any such incident shall be considered an accident regardless of who was killed or injured, what property was damaged or to what extent, or whether the incident occurred on public thoroughfare or private property, or who was responsible. Would like to make a note. If the investigating law enforcement authority determines that a collision involving an OGC vehicle should be classified as an incident, Orange Grove will adhere to that determination unless overwhelming or obvious circumstances such as damage, injury, etc. indicate otherwise. There are certain situations, for instance, where damage might be initially hidden or unseen, but after inspection, usually by our mechanics, it's possible that hidden damage might be uncovered, and hence the classification of that incident will be upgraded, and that incident will be considered an accident. Would like also to remind individuals that although Orange Grove our policy states that 3 preventable accidents in a 2-year period will result in the forfeiture of Orange Grove Center driving privileges. Driving privileges could be suspended or revoked after the first accident. Just depends on whether circumstances merit that response, that disciplinary response. We have a list of offenses or violations which in and of themselves usually involve the denial or the forfeiture of driving privileges. I'll read some of them for you. Driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, involvement in a hit and run accident situation. Number 3, failure to report an accident appropriately. Number 4, negligent homicide arising out of the use of a motor vehicle. Number 6, operating a motor vehicle without the owner's authorization, which basically is tantamount to grand theft. Number 6, operating a motor vehicle for the commission of a felony. Permitting a non-licensed person to drive. Number 9, reckless driving. Number 10, excessive speeding, which is 15 miles or more over the speed limit. Number 11, possession of an international or foreign license. This is unacceptable documentation for Orange Grove Center driving. Would like to remind all of our new hirees that completion of defensive driving before their 90-day probationary period is expired is required. And then, of course, all the other components of our standard basic skills orientation, which include tie-downs and occupant restraint system training, lift operation guidelines, pre-trip inspection guidelines should be completed as well. Also, would like to remind our new hirees that any Orange Grove Center staff person who uses his or her personal vehicle for Orange Grove Center purposes or is compensated for this use must provide proof of liability insurance and should inform his or her insurance carrier that the vehicle is being used for business purposes.